Please join me in welcoming our 2016 commencement speaker, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Dr. Dyson.
To Dr. William Harvey, to the officers and administrators and faculty of this great institution, to Congressman Scott, to Mayor Tuck, to the gracious honorees gathered here this morning, Dr. Inman, Dr. Suber, and Dr. Mumby, and to you, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, but especially the graduating class of 2016. What an honor it is to be here today with one of the legendary figures in all of American education. When the names of the great presidents of our greatest institutions is called, when that list is enumerated, Dr. Harvey will be near the top. The Benjamin Elijah Mazes and the William Harveys signify such deep and profound commitment to American education, but especially to African American education as well. I told Dr. Harvey on the ride over here, he's like the pastor of millions. And we thank God for his incredible intelligence, for his unstinting passion. He is unrelentingly obsessed with the magnificent purpose of making this institution greater. And when Dr. Harvey told me I would be speaking today, not invited me, when he told me at the funeral of my beloved mentor, Dr. William Douglas Booth, whose brilliant and lovely wife, both of them long-standing friends of mine, Mrs. Ruth Booth, who serves as one of his assistants and receptionists, he told me then that I would be speaking, because when Dr. Harvey speaks, it gets done. So I canceled everything else I had on the books, and I am here this morning because of this legendary figure. Let's give it up for Dr. Harvey. I see so many of my friends and associates over the years, but I got to shout out Dr. Linda Malone Kalan, who is the Dean of the Liberal Arts here, looking like a schoolgirl herself even this morning. And I want to say to all of the mothers here, happy Mother's Day. As Dr. Harvey indicated, my son Mwata graduated from here. And indeed, all of my children, my two sons and my daughter, graduated from HBCUs. Daughter Maisha from Spelman, son Michael from Morehouse after 4 other HBCUs. My name might as well have been Lou Rawls. I was a one-man United Negro College Fund. And I started at Knoxville College myself. And my beloved son, Mwata Omotayo Dyson, the president of his class in 1993, and spoke during graduation. He is now a distinguished anesthesiologist and entrepreneur, and it's because of Hampton University. Some tell me the real HU. And so, what a great honor it is to be here today. I'm not going to take long because y'all ain't here to hear me. You are here to hear that you are officially graduated from this great institution. But before you go, I just want to leave a few thoughts with you. And I want to thank Dr. Danley for her gracious hospitality in forging everything here today. I want to reflect with you today about how we become who we are. That's a paradox in one sense, because we think that our identities are already shaped. We think that who we are has been settled, but we know until we draw our last breath, we continue to evolve. The first thing that you ought to know about becoming who you are is that you've got to have perspective. And the perspective that you ought to have is that you come from a great people. You have emerged from people who beat back the vicious demons of white supremacy and social injustice and economic inequality and oppression. You come from a stock of people who have made America what it is today. You come from people who came over in hulls of ships that were filled with bodies that were intended to do the work of American culture that we are not often given credit for. And that perspective is important because some of us think that old school happened 10 years ago. That ain't old. I remember hearing the great intellectual P. Diddy say once, back in my day, back when I was a child, back in 1989. Now that might be old to some of y'all, but that ain't real old to nobody else. And so some of us, because we are addicted to Twitter with 140 characters, back in my day we had to face the book and read it ourselves. We ain't had no Google to look stuff up. We had to go to the library. That's where the lies are buried. You better go there and dig them up. We had card catalogs. Y'all don't know nothing about that. 186, where the sociology was, where we were digging deep into the library. Now y'all just with a click can archive, which is beautiful. Massive amounts of gigabytes and information, but in one sense, the old school leather on the pavement yielded some insight as well. There were some folk like Du Bois who didn't have the social media, but he dug deep into the souls of black folk and saw that we were made of something powerful and something persistently great and glorious, and you ought to have perspective about that. I know you want to mess up some commas and mess up some commas. 40,000 to 100,000, 100,000, another 100,000, 300,000, 500,000, a million. Let's make some money shower. I know you want to do that. But you better understand there's some folk came before that. Keep your hand on that plow, hold on. You had some folk who ain't had no money, but they had a sense of God in their hearts and a sense of their spirit in their own noble aspirations. They understood that they were blessed by God. They ain't had no dough, but they had determination. They didn't have education like you got today, but they knew how to call upon the name of a God who could get them over. How I got over. I know y'all got some scribes going on now. I listened to the great philosopher Tupac, who said, somebody wake me, I'm dreaming. I started as a seed, the semen, swimming upstream, planted in the womb while screaming. On the top was my pops, my mama hollering, stop from a single drop. This is what they got. Not to disrespect my people, but my papa was a loser. Only plan he had for mama was the blanker and abuser. And even as a seed, I could see his plan for me, stranded on welfare, another broken family. Even the great philosopher Christopher Wallace used to fuss when the landlord dissed us. No heat, wonder why. Birthdays was the worst days. Now we, damn right I like the life I live, cause I went from, and it's all good, and if you don't know, the great Sean Carter. The great philosopher Jay-Z. Now all my teachers couldn't reach me and my mama couldn't beat me hard enough to match the pain of my pop not seeing me so. With that disdain in my membrane, got on my pimp game, blank the world, my defense came. Tupac said, just the other day I got lynched by some crooked cops, and to this day, the same cops on the beat getting major pay. But when I get my check, they taking tax out, so we paying the cops to knock the blacks out. All I'm saying to you is that you got perspective rooted in some serious existential and political realities, but don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people who birthed you. Don't forget whose womb you emerged from. Stop demonizing women as B's and H's and skeezers and sluts and hood rats and chickenhead, and recognize that is a fine form for a fantastic female that produced what you are today. You got muscles on your body and you're looking at some gray-haired old man, but don't forget that gray-haired old man took what you couldn't take to get what you were able to take today. When people call them boy, and when they got 60, call them uncle and aunt. As a woman, don't forget that that person that you think is a sellout allowed you to buy in and raise up and deepen your analysis of what you are and where you are. Don't forget that perspective. But not only that, not only in becoming who you are do you have to have perspective, but you've got to understand as well the reality of the power you possess. Now, some of us don't understand what that power is. Here we are in America right now, enduring some difficult times. The difficult times that we are enduring have to do with class, have to do with gender, have to do with sexual orientation, have to do with race. Here we are under the administration of the first black president of the United States of America. We ain't never been prouder to have a black family living in public housing. Don't you apply for that when you get your Section 80. You ain't getting 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. He ain't perfect, but as Grace Jones said, perfect for the situation in which he finds himself. We know that from the very beginning, folk didn't even want him to succeed. He says yes, they say no. He says wet, they say dry. He says up, they say down. But the reality is he kept on fighting through, and now, nearly at the end of his presidency, we see what has come about when he has exercised that power. And you also have to exercise your power to hold him accountable for what he's doing in the White House and what you are responsible for doing with your life. The reality is, my brothers and sisters, we live in a nation where we have been denied legitimate access to what we ought to possess because of what our parents struggled for. In the civil rights movement, they struggled for the right to vote. And yet some of us have been denied that right, not because we don't seek to vote, but because of the political machinations of a culture that continues to undermine us. And so I say to you, exercise your power. Exercise your power to get to the polls. Don't act like it's too raining, too unsunshiny for you to pull that lever and dimple that Chad. You better get up like you going to a Beyonce concert and you drinking some lemonade. You know I give you life. Get up because somebody got up before you to allow you to exercise that power. And no matter what you are becoming, whether you are a dentist or a psychologist or a ditch digger, whether you are an engineer or a college professor, exercise the power that God gave to you and that your people fought for you to be able to exercise. But also the power to love other people, the power to affirm other people, the power in your life not to be arrogant, but to be humble, not to assume you got where you are because you all that. You ain't the only cute person in the world. You ain't the only fine person in the world. You ain't the only educated person in the world. There are a lot of folk in your own neighborhood who are finer, better looking and more intelligent, but they didn't get the opportunity that you have today. So you better take advantage of that opportunity to exercise that power to do the right thing in your personal relationships. But not only that, you ought to be able to speak on behalf and join with the chorus of voices that have arisen during our Black Lives Matter. Your generation has reminded us, you ain't got to be old to be useful. You ain't got to be old in age to be wise. Your Black Lives Matter movement has been important. It has reminded us that black lives do matter. We ain't saying nobody else's lives don't matter, but we know white lives matter because we live in a culture that affirms that day in and day out. The reason we say black lives matter, because black lives matter too. Our intelligence is important. Our work ethic is important. Our sweat is important. Our diligence is important. Our industry is important. Our spirit is important as well. And you got to remember to speak up for those who ain't like you. Black people ain't got no sense beating up on no gay people. Some of the people who have blessed you the most have been gay or lesbian or transgender or bisexual or queer. You just didn't know it. And some of us get retroactively homophobic. Oh my Lord, if I had known you were gay, I would have never accepted that 4-year scholarship you gave me to make it through Hampton University, without which I couldn't be what I am today. Some of y'all trying to use God to co-sign your bigotry. Don't bring God into that. God is no respecter of human beings. God ain't worried about your sexual orientation. God is worried about your moral orientation. What are you doing to help somebody else? What are you doing to spread the gospel of love? What are you doing to make sure justice is real in America? What are you doing to become a vehicle for God's divine destiny? And then I'm going to leave you with this. To become who you are, you've got to understand that you've got to challenge the patriarchy of an oppressive culture. Why do I single that out? It's Mother's Day. A lot of our mothers had to deal with a lot of trauma. Black mothers still don't get their just due. They get demonized as welfare queens. They get dismissed and marginalized as women who are standing in the way. But without black mothers and white mothers and yellow and red and brown mothers, we wouldn't even be here today. We ought to remember that patriarchy can have vicious consequences. If you're a real man, you shouldn't be scared of a real woman. Real men ain't mad at real women, because your manhood ain't about your muscles. Your manhood ain't about your bass voice. Your manhood ain't about how tall you are. Your manhood is in your ability to love and affirm your family and to embrace the vulnerable and stand tall upon the principles of self and other love. And so men are viciously treated by patriarchy too, trying to outdo each other, trying to show who's the biggest and baddest, and then we end up murdering each other and hurting each other and dogging each other in reputation. We can't even affirm each other as men because we are so involved in a corrosive competition, we can't affirm the beauty of the next brother. You ought to learn to do that. If God gave somebody else a gift, it ain't taking nothing away from you. You do you. Do what God gave you. Express the genius of your own soul and spirit, and God will lift you up. If you are faithful to what God gave you, you ain't got to be a Xerox of nobody else. Be an original. You ain't got to retweet nobody else. Tweet yourself. But then I say to us, we got to love our women. We got to love our women because they are the wombs from which we have emerged. They are the beautiful standards by which we understand God has blessed us. We are the basis in our community of appreciating those women, because those women have sacrificed to make it possible to do what we do. We love our fathers because we know they are there, standard and strong, standing tall and affirming. But on this Mother's Day, we must acknowledge that the women in our lives deserve to be respected and deserve to be celebrated and deserve to be embraced. Now, back in my day, we had some songs. I know y'all got songs too. I know Jay says, I can't see them coming down my eyes, but I'll make the song cry. We were crying right with our songs. Sunshine, blue skies. Please go away. My girl's found another and gone away. With her went my future. My life is filled with gloom, but day after day, I stay locked up in my room. I know to you, it might sound strange, but I wish it would have rained. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Y'all on Future. Y'all don't know nothing about that. Girl made us lose our mind. We didn't mind. Have you seen her? Tell me, have you? I see her face as the cold wind blows on the street, even at the picture show. Have you seen it? Why, oh, why did she have to leave? And we got philosophical about it. And go away. Oh, I've been used. You can understand every word they're saying. I love these young Negroes now, but what y'all saying? You know what I'm saying? No, we don't know what you're saying. No, I'm saying I'm gonna do that. Y'all sound like James Brown. We didn't know what he was saying either. Gonna have a good time. Gonna take you high. Dun, 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 dun. Huh. I've been used to having someone to lean on. Now y'all don't know where you is. I'm lost, girl, without you. Then the girl made us see things. Today I saw somebody who looks just, I swear she do. She walk like, guess what? I thought it was you. But what happened? As she turned the corner, Shanae. Oh, you still kind of fine. You ain't my girl, but can I get that math anyhow? Look at y'all. Look at you bragging about what you can give a girl. Tell her what you ain't got. That's how we did it, right? Look at y'all now. When the Remy's in the system, ain't no telling, will I love them, will I diss them? That's what they be yelling. I'm a pimp by blood, not y'all still chase some out. No. What? Save the narrative, you saving it for marriage, ma. Let's be real, ma. You saving it for cabbage. No, that ain't what we said. We said when you're in the center ring and their lines don't mean a thing, why don't you let me try? Now watch this. Now I don't wear I ain't got no diamond ring. I don't. But what I got, here's the Pentecostal love song. All I know is la, 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 la. Speaking tongues on them right now. Look at y'all singing the Michael Jackson version. Oh! Now what y'all singing? You remind me of my Jeep. I love Trey songs. You gonna think I invented sex? No, you didn't. Barry White helped invent sex, sir. Playing your game, baby. I think Marvin Gaye had something to do with that. Some of y'all were born on Marvin Gaye. Y'all weren't born on Kirk Franklin, Mahalia Jackson. You weren't born on Yolanda Adams. You were born on Let's Get It On. Marvin said, I don't see nothing wrong with you. Giving yourself to me can never be wrong if the Spirit moves you. Did that Negro bring the Holy Ghost up into the bedroom? I think Teddy Pendergrass had something to do with sex. He started real slow. Close the door, baby. Then when he got you in there, turn him off. I take my seat, but that's why we ought to celebrate strong women. Because strong women make strong children, make stronger men, make stronger communities, make stronger universities, make stronger worlds for us to operate in. That's why I'm glad Harriet Tubman gonna be on that money, dog. Huh? And do you think Harriet Tubman wasn't a strong woman? What do you think she said? Excuse me. There's a thing called the Underground Railroad. I want you guys to come along. It's really cool. That ain't what she said. Be here tonight. Minds, but we's not going to tell nobody. Oh, she said, I know you won't. She had a Bible in one hand and a shotgun in the other. Huh? Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Mama said, and she had to knock some of those Negroes out. And when they woke up, where I is, Negro, you free. We done drug your butt to freedom, and women are still doing it today. Some of y'all wouldn't be here without a mama who told you, take your butt to Hampton University and graduate. That's how you become who you're meant to be. Peace.